My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Kaminsky, filling in for Dave Dubois. And have you ever wondered how someone went from house hacking to preparing for retirement just through real estate investing? Well, today, my guest, Ian Jimeno, he's going to have to probably correct that for me. Yeah, there we go. See, extra points for me on pulling it off. Me and Ian, we're going to dive into his journey from San Diego to Denver, navigating challenges, seizing opportunities, and ultimately paving his way to financial freedom. Ian, welcome to the show. Fantastic to have you here.
Thank you so much, Bryce. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Yeah, so let's start at the top with the entry into real estate. How did you get started in real estate?
Yeah, I knew that I did not want to work 40 years of my life for like 40 grand a year for starting out, 40 hours a week. It just did not make any sense to me. And maybe it was something that I had to do initially to get capital. But I knew investing was the answer. And I initially started investing in stocks and things like that, but I felt like that was too passive. It was too out there and out of my control. And so eventually I started researching about real estate investing. And I was like, whoa, I can own a house? This is insane to me. Like in San Diego, I don't know if that's even possible. I went to a webinar. This was in 2019, early 2019. I got married, and then me and my wife were like, hey, let's go find a house to house hack. And we found a duplex in San Diego. It wasn't called house hacking, according to my agents. He just like, hey, just rent out the rooms and rent out this other unit, and you can like cut your mortgage in half or more. I was like, that sounds kind of sweet. And so the first house hack we did was a duplex in San Diego, well sought after neighborhood, loved it, walkable neighborhoods. People wanted to rent there. We rented out a room and a bathroom for $1,200 a month. And then we rented out the other unit for $1,500 a unit, or for that unit, for a total of $2,700 per month, which cut our mortgage in half, which is crazy that it was $5,400 for the mortgage per month.
Yeah.
And so that got us started. And I was like, this is really stressful, but it kept pushing me. And nothing really drives me more than the stick rather than the carrot. So the pain and fear of losing a house or going into foreclosure kept me going and wanted to pursue that life.
Yeah. So what was the price point on that San Diego property?
Yeah, price point was 815,000. It was off market, which is great. I know.
I mean, it is like two houses, right? It's a duplex, so you're pretty much paying like for something for a house. Is that what a house goes for in San Diego? 450?
Oh no, especially not right now. But even back in 2019 when I bought it, especially in that neighborhood, you're looking at 600, maybe 700,000, something like that.
Free and clear, like no one next to you type deal.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. And
so what sort of challenges did you have to deal with because like people talk about house hacking, it's like, oh, it's so good, it cuts my mortgage in half, but it also can cut the life that you live in that space. It's a shared space. So any sort of challenges that you faced in those initial stages of house hacking?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, especially when you have a partner with you, I mean, there's a lot of comforts that you have to give up in order to house hack. And sure, we vetted the gentleman that lived with us. Sure, we made sure that he had good credit score, solid income, all that good stuff. But you're just living with someone else. It's not the life that you typically want to see when you have a brand new partner, a new spouse, and you want to live that life together, right?
Yeah, right.
It's a small sacrifice. And I say small, other people might disagree, but
we'll have to ask the wife. Ask the wife what the sacrifice was like. It's good that she's on board, because a lot of time, you'll hear the story of a house hacker. He's like, oh, I house hacked, and then I got into this relationship, and we had to move out into something else. Like, she wasn't down for living like I was on a futon in the basement while renting out my house, so
for sure.
It says here San Diego to Denver. Can you
Yeah.
elaborate a little bit more? It says transitioning from San Diego to Denver while maintaining your real estate investments. So I'm guessing you kept the property in San Diego and started investing elsewhere.
Yeah, for sure. Decided to move over to Denver, lower cost of living, and some of my immediate family was moving over there as well. Um, we decided to keep managing the property ourselves instead of hiring a property manager. So a lot of
Mhm.
people ask me how you manage it. I'm like, it's as if I was there. It's not like there's a leak happening and I would try to fix it myself if it was big enough. I would actually get a plumber or a handyman to do it, and it would be as if I was there, right?
Mm.
So doing that long distance property management, um, and then house hacking over in the Denver area. And initially, when I moved over there, it was in 2020. It was during COVID. Great time to make friends. And I had no idea that basements were a thing. And my parents were already there. They were saying, hey, before you find that next place, why don't you just live in our basement and take your time with finding that next place, and you can find the whole house hack there, whatever you guys do these days, whatever house hacking is. I was like, whoa, 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 you guys have basements? That's
Yeah,
insane.
like everywhere south, like Texas, Nevada, they're just slab constructions, but up here, like anywhere it gets cold, you have to have
Mm,
a good footing. So they're like, well, if we're gonna dig 6 or 8 feet down into the permafrost, we might as well put a basement in. So like that's
yeah.
a big thing in Manitoba where I'm from. A house without a basement is pretty much worthless. Like slab ones, the on piles, like you have to have a basement because people are like, oh, cool house. What's the basement like? And you go downstairs, it's a whole other house.
Totally. And in some cases, I became a real estate agent not too long after that. Um, in some cases, the basement was cooler than the main house, like the actual main level. You got movie theater rooms, you got gymnastics rooms. I mean, it was mind blowing to me that there was a whole separate living space underground. Crazy.
Hmm. Hmm. I prefer to live in the basements. I don't like the noise of above grade. You hear cars and you hear planes and whatever. But in the basement, it's like a little bunker. So,
Yeah.
what prompted you to get a your become a licensed agent?
Yeah. I knew, and I was seeing some crazy gains during the COVID era with my San Diego home. I bought it for 815,000, and by the end of 2021, it was worth 1.1 million. And so over the course of 2 years, it appreciated 300 grand. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, that's someone's salary that I just did just holding on to this property. It was
Yeah.
blowing my mind. And I was like, hey, you guys got to catch on to this. Not just my friends, not just my family, but all these strangers, all these people that are coming out of college that would potentially buy a 6 or 7 bedroom house, live in one bedroom, and then rent out all the other bedrooms. It was such an easy way for us to build wealth without us having to do much. So
Hmm.
I wanted other people to know this strategy, that the buy and hold strategy is great if you have the gusto, the part of my French, but balls and the cojones to do it. It's hard and it takes grit. But in the end, I know this is my retirement fund and I'm going to be set for life once this appreciates to a significant value.
So when you look at um, being an agent now, what have you learned from being both an investor and an agent simultaneously?
Yeah. So both of it is great because it provides experience and it provides real life encounters that I can bring on to my clients. Because a
Mhm.
lot of them that are just starting out, they're not only doing the first time home buyer situation, what the heck is an inspection? Age of the roof, is that a concern? All that good stuff. But how do I get someone in these rooms? How do I vet the guests or the renters? How do I make sure I'm getting market rent and all that good
Mhm.
stuff? So, me being an agent at the same time, I'm able to use my real life applications and experience and translate that into whatever they're going through, whether it's short term rentals because I own a short term rental, whether they're living in the basement because I lived in the basement, in order to make as much income as possible and reduce my living. So it's in the end such a blessing for me to have that experience and have people follow in those footsteps.
Yeah, definitely. I think the statistic was like something like less than 5% of real estate agents own their own house.
That's mind-blowing to me.
Well, I mean, you could rent and you could be educated, but um, you should own something if you're selling something. It's like a it's like a car salesman who's never like doesn't have a driver's license. It's like,
Right.
yeah, I
That's a
read
good.
all the books about driving and that's the gas pedal. I know that. Never driven one, but I hear it's great. Would you like to buy one? It's like
Right.
maybe I'll talk to someone who actually has a driver's license. So, how do you balance the need for cash flow with the long-term appreciation? Because appreciation, like my buddy says, he's a really great at capital raising. He says you can't eat your windows and your doors. So
Hmm.
how do you balance your cash flow against the appreciation? Because San Diego doesn't sound like you're making any cash flow.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. First 3 years that I owned the property, from 2019 all the way to 2022, we were not making money for sure.
Mm,
Even with these long-term rentals that we have in there or renters in there, we're considering doing medium term, but that's a separate subject. Um, we now are cash flowing on these properties, and it took about 3 years. But when you factor in 5% increases on $5,000, it raises pretty quickly, year over year. And so that will, like, just that property will increase over time. As far as the cash flow issue, that is now what we're working on currently. With me and my wife and a couple of business partners, we're now looking at rental arbitrage and
mm-hmm.
also just expanding my real estate agent business as well. And currently in this guinea pig era and experimentation era of me being wherever I want, but only licensed in Colorado, and using social media and YouTube to fuel all the leads coming in, being a referral agent if necessary, if they don't want to work with me since I'm out of the country or out of the state. Um, that is the main concern now, because right now we're house rich, cash poor. And that is, we sort of did things backwards. And I guess it's not the worst thing. At least we're still on the market and we're making it happen.
Yeah, I
Um,
think the important thing is like, people sometimes want the properties that they're buying to retire themselves today.
hmm,
And when you look at just the San Diego property, for an example, it's time in the market, not necessarily timing the market, because there's no time machine that's going to allow you to go back and pick that thing up for what did you buy it for? Like 800 something?
yeah,
There's
815.
no
Yeah,
there's no time machine other than like a significant market correction that's
yeah,
going to have that thing available again. So time in the market and just being responsible and then carrying it through, even if it's not making you cash today, it is amassing. Like look at the equity push on just that last bump. What happens over 10 years? What happens over 20 years? So how old are you
hmm,
today?
yeah, 35.
Right. So how about in 20 years? What do you think it's going to be worth?
Oh man. I mean, I've been seeing so many San Diego properties double within 10 years. And if that is the case, then we'll be set for life even in that
Well,
regard.
every 10 years, the rule is it should double.
Yeah.
You look
Yeah.
at, I was doing market research in my local market here, and 40 years ago, you could buy a house for the market average was $42,000 for a house. And the market average today is $420,000.
Makes
So,
sense.
you know, and that's doubling, 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 doubling. And so this isn't a fancy place. This is Winnipeg, Manitoba. This is the most car wash like real estate market, boring. People come in, they wash their cars, and that's how the real estate market feels. And so when you look at San Diego and the thing just goes,
Yeah.
um, you're
Yeah.
definitely gonna have a few more bumps like we have in say Toronto, where it's just all of a sudden people are a millionaire overnight. Their property goes up from 400 to 1.1 or something like that, and it's just crazy. So,
Yeah.
um, what steps are you taking to prepare for that retirement through real estate?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess just maintaining. I don't think I've ever had a lavish lifestyle, and it's not like a concern for me. Like I don't think I'll ever increase that lifestyle creep um, to the point where I'm now in debt because of it, right? I'm now
Just
more
don't have
invested.
kids then. That's the most expensive. That's the most expensive thing you can do. So just stay on that path if you're not
Yeah.
trying to see a lifestyle creep because they get older, their clothes get more expensive, they're more food to feed them. That's the number
Mhm.
one lifestyle creep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would like to be a dad one day. And, hopefully by that point, we'll have the cash flow situation all figured out. It's now a matter of how soon that can happen and how much will we need. So, in the meantime, like as of right now, I'm living in a van, I'm making things happen and seeing more experiences before we settle back down in Denver and just
Mhm.
chasing the warm weather. We're snowbirding things. So just living the life that we want, and it's mostly thanks to real estate. So I,
Yeah.
I want other people to live the life they want to live because of real estate.
So when you look at that, you say, we've been talking about being comfortable with discomfort, right?
Yeah.
Lifestyle, house hacking, living in the van. Do you must see that as a success factor. Could you elaborate on this mindset and how it's helped you with your real estate journey?
Yeah. I mean, it's really simple when you break it down into the equation of make money, spend less than what you made, and
Mhm.
invest the rest. It's
There's the
really not
Dave
that complicated.
Ramsey. There's the Dave Ramsey in you. Don't
100%.
spend more than you make and invest the rest.
It's really that simple.
It
And
seems
if
simple. I guess the hard part is what are some ways that you avoid
hmm,
the common trappings of lifestyle creep and spending more? How are you avoiding spending more than you make?
yeah, that's really good. Um, I like the simple pleasures of food. And with food, you can really look at expensive places, restaurants, fancy ice creams, whatever it might be, right?
Hmm.
Making things at home and spicing it up, figuratively speaking, to make it as good, if not better, than if you were to go out, saves you $50 per night, give or take, you know?
Yeah, way more than that if you're in Canada. The grocery bill and the what's interesting though is it's like the grocery bills are going like this, but the food places have like a limit in what they can charge. So it's like
Mm.
sometimes you go out and you eat and you're like, I couldn't even buy these things because they're getting a better price than we are. It's
Yeah.
it's a mess up here, but
Yeah.
I definitely know what you're saying. You can definitely save money in the food quadrant. How do you avoid the trappings of credit cards then for the people who are house hackers, who are young, they're coming out of, they might have come out of school with, hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, but the big one that's crushing people is the um creating more debt on credit,
Yeah.
living beyond their means. So how are you managing to stay within your means when it comes to the debt situation? Because you do have debt, you've got real estate debt, but how
Yeah.
do you manage the temptation to overspend when Visa and MasterCard are like, here, let's double your limit. You paid your bills in for 6 months. Let's give you another 10 grand.
Yeah, totally. And as you might know, and your audience might know, I mean, those interest rates are astronomical. You're looking at 20, 25% on it, maybe even more.
Yeah,
So,
29.
yeah, for sure. I like to picture it as if it was a debit card. A credit card is great. Um, Perhaps there is some good use for it. For example, we used a solid.
Yeah, definitely. And so what are some of your biggest successes when it comes to real estate investing? How has it really shaped your approach to future investments?
Yeah, I think with real estate investing, a lot of it is short-term pain for long-term gain. And a lot of people are very impatient when they invest, let's say, in the stock market and
You
whatever it
don't
might
even
be.
have to you don't even have to go any further. A lot of people are impatient. That's it.
Totally.
Because
And so here
usually
we are.
there's
Yeah.
a quote that says all short long-term gains are at the cost of short-term gains. So like they're interchangeable. Like you can have short-term like something like let's say you um I don't know, like you don't want to lose weight, so you go and maybe get like surgery or something. That's like a quick thing, but then the complications of that going forward in the future, like because you didn't do it naturally, come back around. So it's like you can't
Oh yeah.
ever escape the cost of okay, instead of investing in the stock market, I'm going to the restaurant, like you were saying. So then that was great, but it came at the cost of like maybe you could go restaurants every night in the future if you stayed home and cooked your own steak tonight, you know?
Yeah. 100%. As well, staying on that same vein, you don't become the person you want to be either. You don't develop the habits, you don't create the schedule, you don't have the
Mm-hmm.
discipline to keep that up either. So that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Well, there's this quote that really hit me this week, and it was going and it said every athlete in a 100-meter dash has the same goal at the beginning, and the people who win and the that lose, it's not that, yes, there's like an athletic edge, but when you look at the Olympic level, the edge is systems and processes, not,
Hmm.
how much I want it. That's everyone at that starting line. You can bet that all those Olympic athletes want it. Oh, probably about as bad. But who's
Hmm.
done the work to prepare and has like the system of, gaining half an inch on every step through training and processes to be the difference on half a second or a fraction of a second. So um, when you look at the real estate, with what you've been doing, what's the most significant challenge you think you faced and had to overcome?
Patience. It's including myself. I'm an impatient guy as well. And I didn't realize that I was investing already in the decades time frame by going into the San Diego market. Now that I'm in it, I realize that I have to get cash flow now in order to hit a certain retirement goal, whatever
Mm,
that lifestyle is in the end. So the hardest part about this is just being patient because I know that San Diego is a hot market. People will always want to travel there. People will always want to live there. And that specific location as well is very attractive and very walkable with a bunch of
hmm
bars, restaurants, and things like that. So over time, rents will increase, appreciation will happen. I'm utilizing depreciation now and taxes. It's just a matter of time.
hmm You just have to stay patient and work the cash flow situation out. So let's talk about that before we wrap things up. Are there any emerging trends or opportunities in real estate that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, excited. Yeah, I'll say this is in the excited realm. Maybe you've heard about the NAR lawsuit, the NAR lawsuit,
Hmm
with buyer agents, having to now go through how will they get paid, right? Sellers are no longer obligated to be paying for the buyer's agency. And now first-time home buyers will have to navigate how do we afford a home, the closing costs, and the buyer agency at the same time. So I think a lot of real estate agents in the market right now are either reconsidering being an agent or just dropping out. And
hmm
they're going to have to navigate their worth in the buyer agency pool. And at least with me, I work with a lot of first time home buyers, house hackers, and investors. And so I bring to the table analyzing deals, finding off market deals, working with wholesalers, and I come to the table with pros, not just cons. I come here with stuff that people want. And so this is, I'd say, a really good time for people that are not just relocation agents. I
Mhm.
think this is a good time for people that are investor minded or can bring something more to the table than just, I can sell your home. That's why you should pay me.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I had this conversation the other day with one of my business partners, and I said, look, when you close a transaction with lawyers, is it always expected that um, the sellers pay both your lawyer fees and mine? No, because historically, I pay my lawyer, you pay yours, and that's just the way it has been. Now, with the buying and selling of houses, um, it hasn't been that way, but I can imagine like, okay, let's say the commission's going to be 15 grand. It's like what is it, 4% on your San Diego house out of a million? Let's say
Something
it's
like that.
well, let's say it's 2 points and 2 points. Like you would get two and they would get two, and it's a 4% thing. So what's the total commission on that deal? And the seller doesn't want to pay it. So when this is what I think is going to happen. Let's just raise the price and gift the difference on closing, and we'll just write it into the offer. So the price of the house goes from, a million to a million, 1 point, you add the extra, like, I think is that 20,000 on a million, 2%.
Yeah, let's say it is like 1.02 million so that,
Yeah.
agency
And then
gets the
you just
difference.
gift it, and you get, and it goes, and then suddenly so you're going to see the same thing like when we buy houses. So when we're out there buying houses, when I say, okay, um you're paying your lawyer fees, right? So then all I do is I reduce the purchase price by 2 grand. So it's like, there's always a way to like mitigate, because the asset is ultimately paying for the transaction. When you bring the mortgage in, it won't matter whether it's 1 or 1.02. Like it's inconsequential to the deal that it's 2% more. So I
Yeah.
imagine that that's probably where how a lot, like they're just going to get creative. It's like, if you look at Maryland, they've got like very particular wholesaling laws. Do you think people stopped wholesaling in the state of Virginia? No,
No.
they just found another way to do it. They just sell the LLC or whatever it is. So, um, well, it's like a great news story, and there will be agents who won't get paid. Um, I think the biggest thing when I look at that story coming out is that America's capitalist foundations will solve the problem itself. Like if there's money to be made, problems get solved. There's no money in like cleaning up the ocean, so like nobody lining up to go and do it. But as soon
So
as
true.
there's money involved, as soon as someone can make money cleaning up the ocean, all of a sudden all these new startups, people are raising joint venture capital. They're like, we're going out on this mission because there's money to be
Mhm.
found out in the ocean. So it's a good time. I mean, it's going to be an interesting shakeup of the framework, and maybe people will just have to get used to paying their agent. They're going to have to pay the buying agent, and they're going to have to go to a line of credit to save a little bit more money. It'll
Mhm.
just be that way. But I imagine that the first thought was like they're just going to raise the price of the house and gift it back to the thing, and your mortgage will be 1.02 instead of one, and then you'll have had the seller is going to get the same net, and you're just going to inflate the offer so that you pay their agent on the front with the mortgage, and it gets a note back to the buying
Makes
side. So
sense. Yeah.
um so as a buying agent, primarily, you're confident that the value and services you bring are going to keep you from not going to keep you getting paid as this
Yeah.
transition, and the people who just were driving people around and showing them some houses, and they're gonna have a harder time pleading the case like, but I helped you find this house. It's like, well, actually Zillow did, and you opened it, and um so the average buying agent's gonna have to find their value stack, is what you're saying.
Yep. 100%, man. Sure, there's something to be said about marketing and getting your face in front of the right people all at the same time, because there's a lot of good agents out there that are great on marketing. Whether they provide a stellar service is a whole different conversation.
Mhm.
Me personally, I think with my investing background and the colleagues that have worked with me in the past and present,
Yeah.
I think I could tap into their knowledge base as well. And having all of that accumulated into my brain that I can communicate to other people, or even through my YouTube channel, or even through my Instagram page, this is something that people can find value in no matter what the market is. And as things change, I'll let them know what happens, and hopefully they come to me first.
Yeah. Well, I always thought if I was going to become a real estate agent, that I would just be a listing agent. I would just hunt listings, and then I'd just sit around and with my feet kicked up and let guys like you sell them for me. So um, it's going to get a lot tighter for the listing side now, because people are going to be like, oh, there's no guaranteed money on the buyer side. So everyone's going to be like, give me the listing, give me the listing. There's going to be a lot more competition
Yeah.
for the listing side, which I guess is going to reduce commissions. People are always talking about, well, I'll do it for 1% or I'll do it for 2% or whatever. And it'll end up being like a race to the bottom, or some fixed rate service like, oh, I'll sell your house for $2,000. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
That
I don't know. It's really gonna change transactions, but I think what's certain is that people will continue to buy houses. That's, things change, but the human nature of like, oh, we need more bedrooms because we have a kid on the way, is not going to like wait around for them to figure out how the buyer agent's getting paid. They're just going to pay it. They're going to save up money. They're going to go to their line of credit. They're going to do a vendor take back note. They're going to make it happen, like make it happen.
Mhm.
I think, well, there it is. I guess people are going to have to start getting more creative with how the buyer agent gets paid,
Yeah.
because they're not going to work for free. And, you know, I guess you got to value up.
Yeah, and this requires a harder than normal conversation. A lot of agents out there kind of just want to avoid or tiptoe around like the money or the fees or something like that. And especially as buyer agents, we just go in, at least this is how it was done in the past, go in knowing that we will get paid at the closing table. But
Yeah,
now there's that,
only you
yeah,
would see on the matrix that it's like, oh, what is it, a 5%, and it's a 3.2, or is it a two
yep,
three, or are they paying nothing? Am I even going to show that house? It's only 1% over here. I'm going to show this 3%. And it was all in the back room for the
yep,
buying side. But when you're a listing agent, you have to have that. Okay, I'll sell your house for you. My fee is 7%. Oh well, I was thinking it would be closer to 5, and now you're negotiating the seller side.
yeah,
Um, and I guess now that the buyers have to learn how to have that conversation, buying
yeah.
agents.
hmm Yeah, it's a interesting time to be alive, man.
Yeah. Not if you're a
Yeah.
strict buyer agent. You're probably like scared to death, man. Scared to death. The
Yeah.
average buying agent's like, well, I guess I'm gonna get my mortgage broker license. That's where the money is. Like, whether you sell it or I sell it, the next guy sells it, someone's gonna write that paperwork for that mortgage. I think that's where the real money's at.
Yeah,
Mortgage
that makes sense.
brokering, or the lawyers, the escrow, transaction coordinators, real estate adjacent services. That's a big one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, with all the stuff you're doing, I'm sure people are going to want to reach out and have a conversation with you. What should they do? How do they find you?
Yeah. I have a YouTube channel. Go search Invest in Denver. I do everything Denver related, investing related, anything that's related to buying investment properties or making you money in real estate. I'm also on Instagram, pretty active on there. Memes and info. I call it edutainment.
Mhm.
And people can follow me on there, Ian.realestateagent. And also give me a call. Like I'm gonna put my number out there, 858-945-7484. Feel free to text me as well. I'm here for you. I don't care if you're buying or selling. I want to make sure you're just making a conscious, knowledgeable decision. So hit me
Awesome.
up.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you stopping by, man.
Appreciate it, Bryce.
All right. Until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.